Cool. All right, we're in the forward section of Shift, and I am on page XXX. And the measure of your success in life is in direct proportion to what you're willing to do when you don't want to do it. Help me out, Aaron.
Oh yeah, no, I was reading that. I was going to that.
You're reading with me?
Yeah.
Okay. The measure of your success in life is in direct proportion to what you're willing to do when you don't want to do it. You know, I think about you guys a lot, and it's hard to turn this off. And I was thinking about some of the articles that I was reading over the weekend. If you haven't set up a Google alert for housing market updates, you should do that. And if you don't know how to set up a Google alert, go to Google and Google how to set up a Google alert, and you will learn how to do that. And please do that and start reading these articles. Really interesting stuff, right? Sales are down, sales are down, sales are down. And even though sales are down, you're getting conflicting reports because the actual closed volume is still good. And on average, prices are still good. We haven't seen any kind of decrease in prices. And that can give us a false sense of security. Actually, it can give you a false sense of security because if prices are good, even though your sales may be down year over year, the actual closed volume, which is what you get paid on, could be the same, maybe even more. So we could be just kind of coasting, thinking everything is okay. Now, first of all, everything is okay. There are plenty of homes being sold for you to get your unfair share. And the latest projections by NAR are 4.9 million homes sold in 2022. Now, if you just want to know how does that compare to 2021, there were 6.2 million homes sold in 2021. So that's a big decrease. I jumped on Brokermetrics this morning and just did a search for how are we doing in August. Remember in July for Coral Springs Parkland, that's the market that we work in for everybody that's part of the Coral Springs Market Center, sales were down year over year by 48%. So far in August, sales are down over last August by 37.8%. Fewer homes are being sold. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, Gary talks about this in the era of extra effort. And when I'm thinking about you, I'm thinking, what could we do in order to get to achieve our goals? What could we do to make sure that we take advantage of this market? Because it's a market of opportunity. And the reason I'm saying it's a market of opportunity, because the market you're in right now is a skill-based market. Your buyers and sellers need real estate agents who have developed the skills that it takes to sell real estate in this market. They need you more now than they have for the last 10 years. And what are you doing to take advantage of that? Because your sales should not be going down. Even though the market's down, your sales should actually be going up. And that was my experience between 2006 and 2010. The Dietz team was selling more and more homes every year, even though the market was doing this, we were doing this. Because this is a market of opportunity. It's a paradigm shift. Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Gary goes on to say the era of extra effort, a shift becomes the era of opportunity for those who are willing to do what others won't. And there's a whole lot of them. Matter of fact, that's most people. Most people make decisions based on what they want to do. I'm listening to Pivot Shift Ahead this morning, and I'm hearing, even if you don't like to make calls, even if you don't like lead generating, then do this, then do this. And I'm thinking, wait a second, hold on a moment. Even if you don't like to make calls, even if you don't like lead generation, wait a second, there's a problem with this. That's like a football player saying, I don't like to work out. I don't like to go to the gym, but I want to play football in the NFL, but I don't want to work out. That doesn't work. There's something wrong with that. You have to do what others won't. You have to be willing to do what you don't want to do in order to get what you want to get. The effort that got you where you are isn't going to keep you there. Fact. If you've been in real estate longer than 2 years, longer than 3 years, the last 12 months, maybe 2021 was one of your best years ever. Maybe. It's possible. And you may be thinking that that's the way it's always going to be. Remember, Gary says that we succeed when things are good because of what we're doing well. And then he goes on to say, we also succeed in spite of what we're doing wrong. Now, I sat in Atlanta, Georgia at family reunion back in 2009. Gary Keller stood on the stage and said, a shift exposes the frauds. Now, that's a little bit too direct for some of us. And if you don't like that, just be determined to not be that person. Page 30 in the forward at the top of the page, Gary says, in the fall of 2008, in one of the toughest hit markets in the country, Tallahassee, Florida, top agent and successful businessman Gene Rivers worked with a group of agents who tracked their efforts and results over an 8-week period. So I'm going to challenge you, if you're not already doing that, please do that. Track how many calls you're making. Track how many people you speak to. If you're knocking on doors, track how many doors you knocked on. Track how many people you're speaking to. Track how many people you're adding to your database. Track how many contacts are turning into leads. Remember, it turns into a lead when you get their name, phone number, email address, and mailing address. Track how many appointments you're going on. Track how many listing agreements and buyer agreements you're getting. Track how many sales you're closing. Ultimately, what I want you to do is I want you to be able to track how many people you have to speak to. Let me change the way I said that. How many people you speak to. Have to is negative. Sorry. How many people you speak to in order to close a sale. Here's where I want you to go, because then you're going to be able to predict how much business you do based on how many conversations you have. Right, Nick? So Gene Rivers and his team did that. Here's what they found. On average, for every 34 contacts an agent made with prospective buyers and sellers, they netted one closed transaction for every 34. That's 34 to 1. And what makes that number notable is that past studies have shown an average contact to close ratio of around 24 to 1. That's interesting. So it went from 24 to 1 to 34 to 1 in the period of a year, maybe a couple years. At first blush, 10 additional contacts per transaction may not feel like a lot more, but you must realize this means you have an increase in your effort by a very challenging 42% just to get the same results. Now, this got me thinking, what does sit anywhere, Rupa, and welcome. This got me thinking, what does this mean for us? What does it mean for you? And I wonder if you can answer the following question. What's your contact to close ratio? Just please write these down and answer them later. What is your contact to close ratio? Nick, how many people are you speaking to for every sale that you close? The next question is, if the market required a 42% increase in effort, what's your contact to close ratio now? If your contact to close ratio was for every 24 sale, every 24 conversations, you're closing one sale, and the market required a 42% increase in effort, you're now at 34 conversations. Okay, what if your contact to close ratio is 50? Now, what's that look like? What's your contact to close ratio Now, what's your call to contact ratio look like? For every one person you speak to, how many dials are you making? Right? Now, I've tracked this for 20 years, and I can tell you, for me, it's about 1 in 5. It's about, for every 5 people I call, 1 person will pick up the phone. That number really hasn't changed that much over time. It's interesting because you would think with caller ID and some of the things that didn't exist when this dinosaur was selling real estate 20 years ago, that ratio would be higher. It's really not. It's been steady 5 to 1. All right, next question. How many calls are you averaging every 15 minutes? Are you tracking that? I would have a call sheet, very old school, sitting right in front of me that has time blocked in 15-minute increments. 8 a.m. to 8:15, 8:15 to 8:30, 8:30 to 8:45, 8:45 to 9 o'clock. And I'm tracking dials, contacts, appointments booked. Dials, contacts, appointments booked. And I'm going to keep those call sheets in order to track my results over time. Now, the next question is, if you are averaging 50 contacts to 1 closed sale and 5 calls to 1 contact every 15 minutes, how many hours of focused lead generation are you in if your goal is 24 sales? So I did the math. I thought, well, that's an interesting exercise. I'm going to do that. All right, everybody in Zoom, can you see this? Everybody in the room, can you see the whiteboard? Please say yes. Somebody say yes. Yes. One person can see it. That's awesome. All right, hi, Paige. All right, so if my goal is to sell 24 homes and I have a 50 to 1 contact ratio, for every 50 people that I speak to, I am closing 1 sale. Contact to close. And I have a 5 to 1 call to contact ratio. Times 50 contacts equals 1,200 contacts. All right, so I'm at 1,200 contacts in order to close 24 sales. Now, if your goal is to sell 48 homes, then just double the number. So now instead of having 1,200 contacts, I have 2,400 contacts. If my goal is to triple that, now it's, rather than being 48, boy, what's 24 times 3? 75 minus 3 is 72. 72 sales. Now I am tripling the number of contacts that I need to make, tripling the amount of time, and so on and so on and so on. Eventually, it's going to be too much for one person. So the answer is leverage. This is when you start building a team, Nick. All right, back to 24 sales. I have a 5 to 1 contact call to contact ratio times 50 contacts means I'm dialing 1,200 times, or I'm knocking on 1,200 doors. Now, if that's 6,000 calls. If my call to contact ratio is 1 to 5, I'm making 6,000 outgoing calls. Everybody with me? Nick, you're over there on your calculator,
Yes.
checking me, right? Making sure that I'm correct. That's good, because I double checked and triple checked this morning before I came to the office. So hopefully I'm right. If I'm not, please let me know if I'm not. So I'm making 6,000 calls, or I'm knocking on 6,000 doors. Now, if I'm making an average of 5 outgoing calls, give me 1 second, guys. If I'm making an average of, all right, 6,000 calls divided by 5 equals 1,215 minute time blocks. And I'm going to take 1,215 minute time blocks divided by 4, because there's 4 of those in every hour, and that equals 300 hours of lead generation. Everybody with me so far? 300 hours of lead generation divided by 5 days a week over 50 weeks. Hold on a second. Divided by 250 days equals 1.2 hours per day. All right. That's easy. Wonder how many of us are doing that. Now, if I took 24 sales, because that's my goal, my average commission is $10,000, that's $240,000. And I took $240,000 divided by 300 hours, that equals $800 an hour. Do the math, check me out, let me know if I'm wrong. And what's the aha? If I hired you and I said your job is to lead generate 1.2 hour, an average of 1.2 hours a day, focused lead generation, and I'm going to pay you $800 an hour to do this, who's in? Everybody would raise their hand, wouldn't they? And then the next question would be, how many of us are actually doing that? And if the answer is not very many, or almost no one, then the next question would be, why not? And if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. If we're in a market of extra effort, the effort that got you where you were a year ago is not going to get you where you want to go today. It's going to take more effort just to survive. This, not to thrive, but just to survive. And as I mentioned when I started this conversation, I think about you guys a lot. And I think, John, you can't go out and list 100 homes a month for all of the agents in Coral Springs. It's just not possible. You're a team leader. Your job is to train, coach, and lead others to success. If you can't go out and actually do that yourself, what can I do? What's the one thing that I can do in order to get you where you want to be, to achieve all of your goals? Zig Ziglar said that if we help enough other people get everything they want in life, we'll have everything we want in life. Win-win or no deal, integrity, do the right thing. If you follow the Y4C2Ts, the last letter of that acronym is success, results through others. This is a success results through others conversation. So let me be for one moment very selfish. And let me just be brutally honest. Why am I having this conversation with you? Because this is how I succeed. Through you. The only way I succeed, Aaron, is if you succeed. And if I can't go out and do it for you, maybe I can help you think different so that you'll do what you need to do, Clarissa, in order to go out and get your unfair share. I've lived this. I've done it. In one of the toughest markets that this country has ever seen, I was listing and selling 10 to 12 homes every single month. Now, that ain't about me. I don't want you to hear, there goes John bragging again, because that ain't it. Who cares? Here's the message. If I can, you can. When I look at these numbers, I see and I hear success is simple. It's on that wall. Success is simple. But I'm also hearing, and it's not easy. Because there's the path, That's your yellow brick road. It goes to the Emerald City. It doesn't go anywhere else. It's simple. And if it's simple, why aren't more people doing it? Vicki, talk to us.
Wow. I think that this